Hey guys, how's it going? We're just really quickly going to give you another video, and this video is more specifically going to talk about field references, the field itself, and how we use it. Hopefully you get a little bit of information from this video, and you come to April camp, and not just April camp, but also move-ins, well prepared and well versed and familiar with the terminology. Alright, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is the front sideline. Now obviously just the front sideline means that's the direction that we're facing towards the front. But then as we start to gauge our front to back distance from that front sideline, we're going to notice the very first landmark is the 20-yard line. So as we're going from the front sideline all the way to the bottom of the numbers, we use the unit of 11¼ steps. And then from the bottom of from the front sideline to the tops of the numbers is going to be 14½ steps. That's important because if you get a dot, for example, that says 13 steps from the front sideline, you wouldn't stand at the front sideline and march all the way back to that point. You would probably start at 14½, which is the tops of the numbers, and take a step and a half. Alright, so currently we're standing between two field references that are very important. The first one is obviously the front hash, the front sideline that we already talked about, and then the next one is the front hash. The distance between the front hash and the front sideline is 32 steps, and we know that the tops of these numbers is 14½ steps from the front sideline. So if we wanted to find the direct center between the front sideline and the front hash, we know that that would be 16 steps. In order to find that location, I wouldn't go from the front sideline and mark off 16 steps. I would go from the tops of the numbers, which is 14½, take my half step, 15, and then one more step, 16. Now that I'm standing 1½ steps from the tops of those numbers, I know I'm directly between the front sideline and the front hash. So it's really important to make sure that as we're marking off our drill, we're thinking about the nearest field reference to the actual dot. It might be, just because it might say 8 steps from the front sideline, doesn't mean that you might have a closer field reference. So it just depends on us to be aware and know exactly which field reference to use. So now we have the space between the two hashes. We have the front hash and the back hash. There should be 20 steps between the front hash and the back hash, and then we also have a marking right in between. That marking is directly in between the two hashes, so obviously simple math, if it's 20 steps distance between the two hashes, that marking is going to be 10 steps away. So that's really important to have in case we have a dot that says 8 steps from a hash. You can just simply use the center X and mark off 2 steps as opposed to marking off the 8. The likelihood of the 2 being more accurate than the 8 is a lot higher. So now the last thing that we have here is the back hash to the back sideline. The measurements are all exactly the same as the front portion of the field. We know that from here to halfway is 16 steps. From 16 steps to the tops of the numbers is 1½ steps, and then from there to the bottom of the numbers, from the bottom of the numbers to the front sideline is also 11¼ steps. So we use the same measurements both in the front part of the field and the back part of the field. So now we're standing here and taking a look at the field references. We're going to focus more on the left to right references. As you can see, there are inserts on the field that we're standing on, and we use those in order to determine our coordinate left to right as we get them, okay? So we all are familiar with standing on the yard line, right? Now we want to focus on one step off right now. And as you can tell, there's just a significant amount of space between this insert and my left foot. That space has to exist, and the tendency for us when we consider one off is to be too small. So make sure that there's just a considerable amount of space between that insert and my left foot. Now the next reference is 2 off. 2 off tends to be too small. So if you ever have your foot in line with the insert, you're always going to be too small. You want to open that up so that there's about 1 inch of green right between my right foot and this insert. A significant amount of space just right there. Now the opposite is true for 3 off. Your left foot should be directly on top of that insert. That's how you would line up front to back, left to right, as you guys determine where you are left to right. And then lastly, splitting. If there's 5 yards in between, we're obviously just splitting the center 2 inserts. and then the same thing repeats for the end part. Now that I'm here, 3 off would be my right foot's on that insert. 2 off would be there's a little bit of green between that insert and my foot. 1 off would be a significant amount of green between my insert and my foot and that insert. And then lastly, back to that yard line. So guys, that's pretty much a brief description as to how we use the field. And I say brief because once the camps come around, we're going to give you a lot more information. Once movements happens, we're going to be talking about this constantly. So this is going to become very, very much so common knowledge for all of you. We just hope that we can start to introduce the information and get you a little bit of a head start before movements. We'll see you then.